I'm joined now by the New South Wales Environment Minister, Matt Keane. Thanks for joining us, Matt. Tell us what you're going to do. Is this a matter of fencing off vast areas of national parks and clearing them of cats, pigs, dogs and the rest of it?
Well, that's exactly right, Chris, and thanks for having us on the program. The first thing I'm going to do is offer you a job in the National Parks and Wildlife Service.
But
I guess the point that I
dream of it.
Well, you're welcome anytime, Chris. But look, the point that I wanted to make is that we can do practical things that will actually help our environment, unlike our opponents in the left, that all they want to do is virtue signal and trash our economy. In fact, 53 years ago, Chris, it was Tom Lewis, the great Liberal, that introduced the National Parks and Wildlife Bill into the New South Wales Parliament. And that set up a statewide conservation framework and the National Parks and Wildlife Service. And I guess what my proposal was on the weekend was to go back to those principles that Tom Lewis set out. Practical interventions that will actually make a difference to our environment without blowing up our economy. Now, I want to say, Chris, that Liberals have a great track record when it comes to protecting our environment. It was Liberal governments that stopped...
Can I just cut you off there for a moment, Matt
Sure.
Keane? Can we skip the party politics here and just talk about the issue here? I think people are really interested in our native fauna, and we know, for instance, little native marsupials and wallabies and some of the native mice we have, the potoroos and antechinus and the like. They just get wiped out by cats and dogs and pigs. Explain to us what this is going to cost, what you're going to do, and what it might do to preserve some of these native species.
That's exactly right, Chris. In fact, Australia has an appalling record at protecting its native animals. In fact, since European settlement, we've lost 29 species of mammals through extinction. The biggest threat to our native species, and there are many, but the biggest threat is feral pests, feral dogs, feral cats, a whole range of things. In fact, feral cats kill 1 billion native animals every year. What we've done in New South Wales to address that issue is we've set up 3 special sanctuary zones around the state where we've fenced them off, and what we've done is eradicate the feral pests from those areas. And what we're doing is reintroducing native animals back into the wild in areas that haven't seen them for over a century. Bilbies, bandicoots, a whole range of native species are now coming back to life because of this program. What I announced on the weekend was widening out this, I guess, special sanctuary zone situation that we've got to other national parks so that we can not only protect what we've got, but also restore what's lost. And in addition to that, Chris, we're doing great things for our environment, but we think that it will drive tourism in this state. People will want to see these things out in the wild, in their natural habitats. I've read diaries from some of our first explorers that said when they were going on horseback throughout country New South Wales, they'd have to get down off the horses because the ground was covered in native animals. What the ultimate vision would be to restore that in these areas that we're going to set up. So again, it's practical measures that will make a difference to our environment, protect our threatened species and ensure that we hand our planet to our kids in a better state than we found it.
Yeah, it's important stuff. Now, both sides of politics will claim that they've preserved a lot of areas for national park. I know Bob Carr often points to his record in that area, and that's great. That's a great first step. You don't get anywhere unless you have the national parks. But unless you then staff them and manage them properly to keep down feral animals and the like and to help people enjoy them, then it's a bit pointless. So this is a really good idea. Now, I know a lot of work's been done on this. It's not easy. I mean, if you just put a fence around a large area, foxes and cats and dogs will find a way in. There's all sorts of tricks, making the wiring on the fences very soft and overhanging and saggy so that cats and the like can't climb it. So it must be very expensive because then you've got to manage it, exterminate the feral animals inside, and then, as you say, maybe reintroduce some of the species that have been wiped out from those areas.
It is very expensive, but it's worth doing. We're working with Taronga Zoo, who actually have a breeding program to get these species up and bred, and then we'll reintroduce them back into these fenced-off areas. I recently visited a site up in the Pilliga where we fenced off an area that is free from all feral predators. In fact, we've been trying to get rid of all the feral predators, and there's one cat left there. So we've still got to identify this cat, but we've reintroduced some native species back into their native environment, and in this instance, they haven't been seen in that area up in the Pilliga for over a century. So it's exciting stuff, Chris.
Yeah, great stuff. I love that. That's really good work, really important conservation work. Now, if you want to get into your culture wars, your political wars stuff, I want to switch on to something else.
Sure.
The climate strike. We're having people promoting now not just a climate strike by students, but also by workers for September the 20th. Now, not only are various groups promoting that kids should take September the 20th off school, they're also saying the Sydney City Council is backing the strike and suggesting its own workers should take time off on September the 20th to demonstrate over climate action or climate alarmism. And this is outrageous, isn't it? Isn't there anything the state government can do to step in and stop this sort of nonsense?
Well, all it is virtue signalling. It's not actually going to reduce a single emission as a result of these protests. What we need to do is practical measures that will actually protect our environment whilst at the same time ensuring we don't blow up our economy. That's what we're doing here in New South Wales. My number one objective, or our policy objectives, is focused on keeping the lights on and prices down. And we can do that by also delivering clean energy into the grid. So they're not mutually exclusive, Chris, and that's the message that we need to be getting out there.
But we just heard Jim Chalmers, the federal Labor Treasury spokesperson, try and tell us that the way to get cheaper electricity and create more jobs is to build in even more renewable energy into our electricity grid. That just flies in the face of our experience so far. Aren't we going fast enough, if not too far, on renewables already?
Well, just look at South Australia. Look, renewables have an important role to play in our energy future. However, they're not the only part of the solution. There are a range of technologies that are required if we're going to achieve those objectives of keeping the lights on, power prices down and an environmentally friendly grid. We can do that, Chris. Instead of putting ideology as the basis on which we're making decisions, we're going to put the science back into the debate, which is exactly what we're doing here in New South Wales, making decisions based on the science and the engineering to get better results for our state.
If the numbers stack up, are you happy to see another new coal-fired power station in New South Wales?
Look, I'm technology neutral. Coal is part of the mix. It's going to be part of the mix for a long time into the future. In fact, the Mount Piper coal-fired power station is not scheduled to come to the end of its technical life until 2042. I'm confident there'll be a range of innovations and new technologies that will provide the solution by the time we get there. In the meantime, we need to ensure that there's an orderly transition which still keeps the lights on and power prices down to keep our economy staying strong. New South Wales has one of the envies of the world when it comes to our economy because we've had cheap, reliable power. I don't want to see anything that will undermine that, and that's why we in New South Wales are focused on reliability and affordability as the primary motivators behind our policy position.
Matt Keane, thanks for joining us.
Great to speak to you, Chris.